What if speaking the truth could cost you your life? Albert Ojwang was a teacher and blogger, known for speaking out against corruption. On June 6, 2025, he was arrested in Homa Bay, accused of defaming a top police official. 2 days later, his body was found lifeless in a Nairobi police cell. Police claimed he hurt himself. An autopsy told a very different story: head trauma, neck compression, multiple bruises, signs of a brutal assault. Who killed Albert Ojwang? And why did the institutions sworn to protect him become his greatest threat? Albert Ojwang was born in Homa Bay County. He grew up among families who lived off fishing and farming, learning from an early age the value of community and hard work. Albert came from the Luo community, known for proud traditions and a deep sense of community. He went to local schools, then to Pwani University, earning his teaching degree. He became a secondary school teacher in Voi, in Kenya's coastal region. He was respected by students and colleagues for his kindness, patience, and for speaking openly about what was wrong in society. Beyond teaching, Albert was a blogger and an active voice on X, formerly Twitter. He wrote about corruption and society, calling out injustices with clear language that made him popular with Kenyans, especially the youth. Not long before his death, Albert became a father. He celebrated the birth of his child with tenderness, a new chapter full of hope and responsibility. Yet in the same posts where he championed hope, he also challenged power. He criticized high-ranking officials for alleged corruption. Among them was Deputy Inspector General Eliud Lagat. Public figures like Albert risked much by speaking out. Despite the distance from Nairobi, his voice reached the heart of Kenyan politics, and that voice was growing louder. On June 6, 2025, Albert Ojwang sat at his dining in Homa Bay County with his family nearby. By that afternoon, officers arrived at his home. He was taken into custody over social media posts accusing Deputy Inspector General Eliud Lagat of corruption, claims that Lagat vehemently denied.
Kile kilichotokea hapa. Maana kilichotokea ni kwamba nimeenda kushuhudia mwili wa kijana wangu umelazwa katika city mortuary. Jana walikuja maofisa wa polisi 6 muda wa saa 7 za mchana, kama kijana wangu ametoka Ringa kuchukua miti ya kupanda. Kulikuwa kuna mvua, ni msimu wa mvua. Sasa alipofika hapo, mama yake akampatia chakula hapo nje chini ya mti, na bibi yake akaenda hapo karibu na yeye na mtoto wake, watoto wangu na ndugu yangu wakawa wako na mimi na ndugu yangu mdogo hapo ndani ya nyumba. Nikasikia ngurumo ya pikipiki inakuja. Nikaona kumbe hata si pikipiki moja, ya pili nafuata hiyo ya kwanza. Nikiangalia mbele ya boma huko kule ambako tunatokea, nikaona pikipiki ya 3.
Sielewi man.
Ni tagu ulifanya ama?
Sielewi hata hajanieleza man.
Wamekwambia unapeleka police station gani? Central Police.
Hapa nje.
Central Police.
Yeah.
Sawa, na haujakunyang'anya phone right? Haujakunyang'anya simu? Wamekunyang'anya simu?
Ile kwa nafikisha ndio wamenirudishia sasa niongee.
Wanadai aje, wanasema aje?
Sasa nifike huko.
Ufike Nairobi kwanza.
Turudi Mei twende ile.
Hello?
Yeah.
Wanasema tufike Nairobi kwanza.
Sijui hata nisijua na.
Sawa, kesho tunaweza fika hivyo Central.
On June 8th, the vehicle arrived at Central Police Station, Nairobi, at 21:17. Albert was booked into a cell. At dawn, he was found unconscious and rushed to Mbagathi Hospital, where doctors pronounced him dead. Police initially claimed Albert had hit his head against the cell wall, suggesting suicide. But just hours later, words from Dr. Bernard Midia, The chief state pathologist shattered that story. Head injuries, neck compression, bruises across the body, evidence of assault, not self-harm.
Were serious injuries to the head. There were also features of neck compression. There were also multiple soft tissue injuries that were spread all over the body, including the head also, the neck, upper limbs, and the trunk and the lower limbs. These are injuries that externally inflicted from external source and are in keeping with.
The Independent Policing Oversight Authority identified 5 officers connected to the case. One constable, James Mukwana, was arrested on June 12th. The rest are under suspension or investigation. President William Ruto and Inspector General Douglas Kanja publicly corrected the record. Ruto described Albert's death as heartbreaking and unacceptable, confirming it occurred at the hands of the police. The IG apologized for earlier misinformation. As trust in law enforcement fell, public grief turned to anger. On June 12th, hundreds poured into Nairobi's streets. They blocked Parliament, chanted for justice, and called for the resignation of DIG Lagat. Police used tear gas and water cannons. Vehicles were set alight. In Parliament, IG Kanja delivered the timeline of events, from tracing Albert's X account to arresting him in Homa Bay and moving him to Nairobi. He also revealed that officials sought account data from the Communications Authority, but CA later denied providing location tracking, sparking debate on procedure and privacy. The turning point came when forensic evidence openly contradicted the police. Soft tissue injuries, deep bruises, compression marks, clearly not self-inflicted. The autopsy narrative forced officials to abandon the original claim of suicide and admit police responsibility. This moment marked a shift from cover-up to confrontation, from official denial to public outrage and accountability. Today, the laughter of a young teacher, father, and activist is missing. But the story of Albert Ojwang lives on through his words, his family, and the movement he helped awaken. As for the case, the wheels of justice are moving, but slowly. The Independent Policing Oversight Authority, IPOA, confirmed that 5 police officers were identified in the investigation. Only one constable has been formally charged in connection with Albert's death so far. Deputy Inspector General Eliud Lagat, who was named in Albert's viral tweets before his death, has not been charged. However, public pressure remains high, with advocacy groups continuing to call for his resignation or investigation. Every once in a while, a story breaks through the noise, not because it's loud, but because it's honest, raw, human. The story of Albert Ojwang is one of those. He wasn't famous, he wasn't rich, he wasn't powerful. He was a teacher, a father, a digital voice, trying to ask questions that many were too afraid to say out loud. He believed in truth, in accountability, in the power of asking why. And for that, he paid the ultimate price. But this story isn't just about death. It's about awakening. Albert's passing sparked something Kenya hasn't seen in a long time. A wave of youth defiance, of national mourning, of public unity against silence and violence. His death reminded the world of what happens when power goes unchecked. From Nairobi's streets to Parliament's halls, from viral tweets to televised hearings, Albert's name now lives at the center of a growing demand for justice, for reform, and for truth. We are left with questions still unanswered. Will all responsible face justice? Will real reform follow his death? Or will this be another name added to the long list of silenced voices? In the end, perhaps the most powerful part of this story is not how Albert Ojwang died, but how he lived, with conviction, with courage, and with the belief that even one voice, one teacher, can shake a system. To those watching, ask yourself, what would you risk for truth? And when silence becomes safety, will you still choose to speak? Albert Ojwang case remains under investigation. Only one officer has been formally charged. Thousands continue to demand justice, and his voice still echoes across screens, streets, and hearts.